Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast and another edition of 25 for 25, our summer series where we are counting down the best 25 Knicks, or the top 25 Knicks, got to get the terminology right, of the last 25 seasons, as I have been for every one of these episodes, and as I'm pretty sure I will be the case for every one of the episodes remaining. I'm joined by my buddy Andrew Claudio. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
I'm well. Okay. How are you is an interesting question. If you count the other sports teams in my life that I root for, just no comment. I will just say we're going to be transitioning to a second part of the pod later, where we recorded it yesterday with a special guest. And I maybe make my most accurate prediction of my entire life, projecting something that will have happened in the future that did happen last night. So that's something for you all to look forward to. But it's always good to be on here talking about the top 25 Knicks of the past 25 seasons with you, Jonathan, especially the person that we're going to talk about today.
I'll just add briefly, I did not know the name Ryan Helsley.
Oh, Helsley. Yeah.
Before this morning, but
you can go to Helsley as far as I'm concerned.
I'll just leave it at that. I can't top that. All right. Let's talk about someone who I think is going to induce a bit more fun feelings amongst New York sports fans in general, because let's start here. Right? We're talking about Immanuel Quickley today, who checks in at number 20 on our list. And as we're doing for every one of these episodes, Andrew was kind enough to create a little resume. But before I even start on that resume, I am not sure, and this would be an interesting, maybe we'll do this as a post 25 for 25 podcast all its own, but like ranking the approval ratings of all of these people. I don't know that there's too many that we're going to go through here that are going to have a higher approval rating than Immanuel Quickley. But that's not an official line on his resume. Here's what are the official lines on his resume. He attended Kentucky. He stayed for 2 seasons. He was drafted 25th by the Oklahoma City Thunder, technically, and he was traded to the Knicks for the number 23 pick, Leandro Bolmaro. I still remember that draft day, and all of the talk of the morning was whether, and leading up to that morning, was whether the Knicks were going to have to trade up to be able to get Obi Toppin. And then they ended up doing some draft day trades, but it was moving and shaking in the bottom of the first round. So they cleaned up there. He finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting in 2023. He was robbed. He finished 10th the year prior in 2022. He is 8th in 3-pointers made for the Knicks since the 2000-2001 season, 13th in total win shares since the 2000-2001 season, and 7th in total points scored for a Knicks rookie since the 2000-2001 season. Is there a trivia question coming there?
Indeed. So, John, can you name the 6 rookies ahead of Immanuel Quickley as far as points scored in their rookie season since 2000-2001? In the past 25 seasons, there's 6 Knicks that scored more points in their rookie season than Immanuel Quickley.
Kristaps Porzingis.
That's 1. He's number 2 on this list.
Number 1 is RJ Barrett, I'm assuming.
No, hold on. I'm going to double check that I didn't do something wrong. RJ Barrett is 15th on this. No, that's personal fouls. Hold on a second. I sorted it wrong. Yes. Oh, and by the way, Kristaps Porzingis is number 1 on this list. RJ Barrett is number 4 on this list.
For total points scored in the rookie season, RJ's 4?
Total points scored. And when you think about it, the other 2 ahead of RJ, number 2 and number 3, will make sense when you remember what happened to them in their rookie seasons.
Boy, I'm going to look like a real horse's ass if I don't get
I don't think so. I think they're seasons we wanted to forget, and for certain reasons, but rookies were given carte blanche to do whatever they wanted to.
All right. Well, I don't think this is one of these 2 guys, but is Danilo Gallinari one of the answers?
Danilo Gallinari is...
Oh, he's really low. Okay, never
further
mind.
down, yeah.
Okay. Man, carte blanche.
Geez, is this real? Danilo Gallinari scored 170 points his rookie season. That's it.
Was that the season where he got hurt his second year?
Well, maybe he got hurt his first year.
Hold on. Now we're really going off track.
Yeah, he played 28 games. He's played 28 games his rookie season.
I got it mixed up with his second year. I thought he missed a bunch of games his second year. He missed a bunch of games his first year. Sorry, that was a bad job by me. And he only averaged 6 points. Okay. All right.
Stops 1, RJ Barrett 4. You're missing 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Alonzo Trier.
Number 8, right behind Immanuel Quickley. So well done. That's a close runner up.
None of this is well done because I'm missing 2 obvious answers here. David Lee.
David Lee is 20th.
I'm really, again, batting 1,000 here.
So think, how many times have the Knicks had a high draft pick, a top 4 draft pick?
A top 4 draft pick?
And during this stretch, the past 25 seasons?
Twice, RJ and KP.
Right. So to get that pick, they had to be really bad.
Yeah, I know. And I'm trying to think.
They let a couple rookies do whatever they want during those seasons.
I've blocked a lot of. Tim Hardaway Jr.
Number 3, because he was allowed to take as many shots as he wanted during the 14-15 season, and then in 18-19.
That's the one I'm struggling with.
A guy who was taken ahead of Mikal Bridges.
Oh my God, Kevin Knox.
Knox.
Talk about things you've wiped from your memory. Rookie of the month in December, Kevin Knox.
So 1 is Kristaps, 2 is Kevin Knox, 3 is Tim Hardaway Jr., 4 is RJ Barrett.
And I'm missing 1. Missing
5 and 6. Yeah. Number 5 ended up being an NBA champion. Number 6 is currently running a front office.
Did Nate score more?
Nate Robinson is number 9 on this list.
Running in Landry Shamet. Landry Fields.
Landry Fields is number 6.
Ended up being an NBA champion.
Friend of the pod.
Channing. I was thinking of Channing. What did he average his rookie year?
I have no idea what he averaged, but he scored 802 points his rookie season. Probably 800. And Immanuel Quickley I'll put the graphic on the screen, but Immanuel Quickley finished with 731 career points.
Wow.
Excuse me, in his rookie season.
Do you know Channing Frye finished 5th in Rookie of the Year voting? Oh my Lord.
Yes. 66 points behind Landry Fields. And then further up the list, every other Knick that we mentioned scored at least 800 points. Kevin Knox, 963, just behind Kristaps Porzingis, who cleared 1,000.
Yeah, another bad job by me. David Lee only averaged 5 points a game his rookie year. Okay, so that was embarrassing. Let's talk about Immanuel Quickley, who rarely embarrassed himself. Actually, that's even that's not strong enough. Never embarrassed himself, even during what I would consider to be the low point of his Knick tenure, the 2022 playoffs, right? Did I get
23
playoffs. Sorry, they make the playoffs. Yeah. 22. If Immanuel Quickley had played more games, they might have made the playoffs in 2022, which we'll get back to that in a minute. But other than the 2020, even the 2023 playoffs, he was a young player that I wouldn't even say it was like the moment was too big for him. I don't think he played particularly well. And that was, to say that was the exception is an understatement, because all Immanuel Quickley did for the 3.5 seasons he was here was contribute to winning. And he did it really from before his first game. The preseason explosion, I'll call it, against the Cleveland Cavaliers is something I'll never forget. And then, right at the start of that rookie year, all of the attention was on Obi Toppin. I remember Obi Toppin he was like 2nd or 3rd in Rookie of the Year odds, because everybody was like, well, he fell to 8th because he may not have the ceiling of some other players, but he's going to step in right away and produce. And then he goes out there, he plays 23 minutes his first game against the Pacers, gets hurt, and then he's gone for whatever it was, 2 weeks. Enter Julius Randle, but Immanuel Quickley steps right in and hits the ground running. I'm trying to think, when's the last time we had a rookie that had this audacious, to use a Clyde word, someone that reminded a lot of folks of Clyde was Immanuel Quickley. A rookie that had this audacious a start to their career as a Knick. When's the last time? It's been a while.
And I think that's what informs my perspective of Immanuel Quickley and why I had him tied for. I'm one of the two people tied for having him ranked the highest of any month.
Which was what?
13th. Me and Benji and I had him ranked 13th. No one had him ranked lower than 25th. Sean had him 25th, and then someone else had him 25th. But like, I come from a world of content creation for the Knicks before Knicks Film School, where we were talking about the Knicks and some of their younger players. And I don't know if you know this, John, but Knicks fans can overhype younger players sometimes.
I almost said Kadeem Allen in the rookie. Tony Douglas, anyone?
Also, we just went through a list of young players, right? Yeah. And I remember Kevin Knox. Is he at Allen Houston 2.0? Did they get the summer league that Kevin Knox had his rookie season?
Yes.
Where the hype was surrounding that. And Ignas Brazdeikis had 40 points in a summer league game then. And a player we didn't name was Mitchell Robinson, who was also in that summer league, but he ended up being a real thing. But there was a long stretch during the 2010s, I'll say, of young Knicks that had the affection of Knicks fans because we were starved for one of these rookies to be better than they actually were, to actually pan out for a second round pick, like the Tony Douglases.
You're missing the
Damian Dotsons, the Frank Ntilikina's. And I think Frank actually informs where I want to go with Quickley, because hives get created. Like the actual hive of anything he does wrong, we're going to point to every single thing around this person and not their actual abilities and deficiencies that will have them playing overseas in a couple years. And when Immanuel Quickley showed up, it was different. Like there was something different. There's no, this isn't just Knicks fan hysteria. This is an actual legit guy that they got late in the first round. And it was a sign both of a shift in the franchise actually potentially knowing what they're doing and being able to find talent and draft well and build a winner the right way, as well as just a testament to him, going to the right, finding the right person, like him actually being the guy that was able to work his way into the rotation as a rookie under Tom Thibodeau. And yeah, the fact that he was the actual first person deserving of a hive and defense for he should be getting more opportunity. He should be getting more time. He should be getting more run. He should be potentially starting, and that obviously never happening. It was the way I look at Immanuel Quickley, and my adoration for Immanuel Quickley is that he broke that curse of you're a young Knick that a lot of people stand for, but now you're actually deserving of that adoration and defense.
Yeah, and you hinted at it already unwittingly, I think. The setup was so key because not only, unlike so many of those other names that you mentioned, did Immanuel Quickley not have a summer league because it was canceled because of COVID-19, but going back to the night he was drafted, the talk about it's one thing for a player to be drafted and it to be said, oh, they picked too high. It's another thing for a player to be drafted too high and for the discussion to be about some of the some reasons why they may have been drafted too high that make the front office that picked him look to be a bunch of ass clowns. And that was what the initial conversation was like. Oh, World Wide West, Kentucky. He just wanted a Kentucky guy. He didn't care if this was a kid that was supposed to get drafted in the 30s or the 40s. He was going to have his guy one way or another. And so I think for all those reasons, leading into his rookie year, the start of his rookie year, I don't want to say there was no hype, but it was very low level, if at all, right?
Yeah, the hype was around Obi, and the thought was that, especially coming off of Julius Randle's first year with the Knicks, and a lot of this comes as an extension of the Derrick Rose conversation that we had. Yeah. The thought going into what became the We Here season was that they're eventually going to hand the keys over to Obi Toppin.
Tank.
Well, so I thought, especially once you saw that second preseason, one of those preseason games, because I know that Quickley's breakout came in the preseason.
So the breakout came mostly in the second half against the Cavs, and then the next game he got the start at point guard and exploded in the first. Had a phenomenal first quarter.
So I'm remembering it now, and I think a part of it involves a rookie that we already mentioned, and it's Kevin Knox, because he was part of a comeback. The Cavs had taken everybody that mattered out, and the Knicks had a big second half comeback.
Yeah, it was a big bunch of scrubs.
Us Knicks fans were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like Immanuel Quickley led a comeback with Kevin Knox, and this was exciting. And that I think informs, like, oh, this could end up being what the second half of the season looks like. They'll have some fun moments featuring the young Knicks once they trade Julius and some of the veterans, and they go full tank. And they pivoted, and I'm never gonna take back what the We Hear Knicks ended up being, but the hype going into that season was around Obi, and he suddenly became the most exciting, for me at least, the most exciting young Knick on the roster for the next couple of years. And it culminates in, eventually we're going to get to the categories, but it culminates in what eventually his third season became. But yeah, just it was very clear early on in his career, once he cracked the rotation officially, like when they traded for Derrick Rose, there was no conversation about him replacing Quickley. It eventually became him replacing Austin Rivers. Yeah, he had the goods, man. And it was good to see that the Knicks actually had a guy like that they didn't have to, like, it wasn't just consensus. Oh, you had the 3 pick, you took the 3rd overall projected pick. No, you went and found a person, found a guy. And, I enjoyed watching him.
Very rarely do NBA players, I shouldn't say that, have Knicks over the last 25 years, and again, I can't think of another great example, have a career as a Knick, and this is cheating a little bit because Quickley's career as a Knick only lasted 3.5 seasons, but each one of those seasons takes on a distinct personality. Whereas his rookie year was like, again, this kind of explosion out of nowhere that we're talking about, and this late first round pick becoming a contributor to winning. Whereas Obi, I don't want to put down Obi Toppin, but like, spoiler alert, Obi Toppin ain't making this list. 1 and 2, like, I think there was very much a little of like, all right, maybe there's no one better that Thibs has to play, but are we 100% sure that Thibs would be giving Obi Toppin minutes if the franchise didn't just draft him 8th overall and so on and so forth? But Quickley was the guy who Thibs had to, like, he couldn't keep off the floor. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later with our guest. Year 2 is, I mean, how do you even begin to describe year 2? Year 2 was the year it all fell apart around Quickley, which then brought up this something. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like what happened within the fan base during Quickley's second year. And it was all focused on Quickley. It was a general play the kids more narrative, but it was really about play Quickley and start Quickley. That was year 2. And then year 3 was when it all kind of came together, and he should have been the 6th man of the year. Was he the 3rd most important player on that team? Was he the 4th most important player on that team? Those were the conversations. And then that all led up to year 4, which was the trade. And we have a biggest regret / thing we would have wished we would have gone differently category later. So I guess we'll save talk about that season. Let's go to lasting memory, because there's, I don't know, 24 you could pick from. I mean, look, the obvious answer is the Boston game.
Yes,
double overtime,
dancing in Boston Garden when Jalen Brunson was out. Yeah,
but for the sake of just like Chris Ryan often chooses different movies for different lists, because he's like, yeah, I talked about that movie last month. We'll be talking about the Boston game for years. I'm gonna go with a different game here, and I'm gonna go with, during his rookie season, the game against the Portland Trailblazers that they lost, but Quickley nearly led a comeback, and I think they fell just short. And I remember it contained a bunch of threes. But the thing I'll remember most about that game is that was the first time for me, I think, where his exuberance like came through almost as a skill, like great handle, great finishing, great shot, so on and so forth. It's almost like he used that exuberance as a weapon, because you're playing a team and this kid he comes on the floor. I'm going to keep referring to him as a kid. And he's like hitting shot after shot. And it's like, what do we do with this kid? Because clearly he's not feeling any pressure. He's loving every second of this. And I think more than anything, that's the quality of Quickley's that I'll remember most. But I'll choose the Portland game because that's the first time, for me at least, that I remember seeing that very particular thing that he had that I don't think anyone else had.
So we need to go on record. The correct answer is the Boston game.
Yes, no one's disputing that.
Just making sure, because that, you're right. We've celebrated that moment enough. That will forever be the Immanuel Quickley national coming out party, I think, because it was a national television game.
Hold on. Can I go a step further?
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, this is maybe a different podcast episode. I think that Boston game is, if we were to rank regular season games of the Thibodeau era, I rank that as number 2, behind only Brunson crying on the court after the Pacers game. For me, that's
regular season games of the Thibs era. That is a different podcast. You know what? It's definitely top 5, because there's a couple during the We Here season. We will eventually have a Julius Randle conversation. There's a couple Julius games that I got to go to. It's annoying that Jalen's like highest scoring game is a loss. You know,
did it not make our top 10 of the year?
Yeah, when we did the Jalen Brunson Hall of Fame, because it was a loss. Yeah. And we said like Jalen would not put it on his list because the Knicks lost. So in honor of him and his competitiveness. Look, my answer also goes back to his rookie season. I had to double check if this was a preseason game or during the regular season. I can't clarify, but it's against Cleveland. You remember how much of a knack he had for drawing 4-point plays, where he'd hit the 3 and get fouled, and he was really good at drawing fouls in general. Yeah. And one of his early moments during his rookie season where he hits the 3, gets fouled, and starts swimming on the court. Yeah. In that moment is what I'm going to. Sure. That because you go to the Portland game, I remember that second half where it was like, oh, like this is a thing. And I remember that informed some of the conversation in the off season, that because when we were wondering if the Knicks might go star hunting and how good the Knicks were, that they had a guy in Julius Randle, they were just a 4 seed. Would Dame ever entertain the New York market? And like the fact that Portland just saw like Immanuel Quickley dominate them in the second half, would he be a higher or more valuable asset? So that's like you said, his youthful exuberance and free flowing nature on the court will be the lasting image, and one of the best early memories of Quickley outside of him in that double overtime game against Boston in not the Garden.
And let me just say that the Portland game I'm referencing, 31 points, the only time he scored more than 30 in his rookie season, in 24 minutes, no less. 5 of 8 from deep, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Pretty good performance. Quick break to tell you about America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy. You know the words. Shout out to Cornbread. Yes, Cornbread, the source of your healthy, happy hour. It's a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. Well, how do they achieve that balance? My favorite thing about Cornbread is it's just the right amount for me as someone who is not a regular user of these sorts of products, but still wants to get that relaxation without feeling anxious or paranoid like some other cannabis edibles, which is why Cornbread's 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio is perfect for me. They have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, which is just the right dose, and it gives me everything I need without any of the stuff that I don't want. If you are looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They have created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that is 100% legal. As a special offer to Knicks Film School listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use promo code KFS at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. And on that note, we transition. Man, again, talk about something that could be a whole episode or a podcast series.
We may be having a guest join us to also talk about this pretty soon.
Yeah, so we're not going to go too deep. Look, we would be here for hours talking about this. Biggest regret / something you wish would have gone differently or better, even if it was out of their control. I can't help but laugh. I mean, let's ask this question. If, because Tom Thibodeau was given a brain transplant or whatever, Quickley takes Kemba's starting job instead of Alec Burks 20 games into the season and gets to start the remaining, whatever it was, 61 games, 62 games. How much, if at all, does Knicks history change? Because without thinking too deeply about it, I don't think there's any way that they don't sign Brunson. I think the Brunson thing was always going to happen, just like Thibodeau was always going to get hired as the coach. I think the Brunson thing was always going to happen. And the only way that it doesn't happen is if I think Brunson looks at the situation in New York and say, do I really want to go there and have to compete with this kid who the fan base loves and is doing pretty well for himself? Do I want to compete with him for I don't think he would have thought he was coming here to compete with him for a starting role, but compete with him in any way, shape, or form. But that then goes back to, okay, how would Quickley have performed if he was given 35 minutes a night for those 60 plus games? And that's what I think is a more interesting question, because remember, he was still a second-year player. And look, I'm obviously going to be the guy who was like, Thibs was pretty good at knowing a player's limits and giving the player as much as they could handle. Now, did he always err on the side of, I'm going to give them less than they can handle as opposed to more than they can handle? 100 times out of 100. Not 89. 100 times out of 100. That's what he erred on. So we'll never know. But the notion that if Quickley got the start after 20 games and was going to average 22 and 8 or something for the rest of that year, I don't know if I'm quite there. Are you?
I don't think the people that even in the Hive, and I have a membership to the Hive, even though I never go to meetings because it's crazy in there.
That's the best fucking thing you've ever said. Literally the funniest thing you've ever said on the show.
I just do I think the Knicks potentially make the play-in that year?
That's
maybe. They missed the play-in by 4 games. I'm on record. I think the play-in doesn't, who cares? The Miami Heat became the first team from the play-in to win 2 games from the 10 seed last year. And they could hang that banner as they lost by more points than any team ever in a playoff series in the first round. And I think the Knicks were headed for either that, if they got hot and made the playoffs and won 2 games and then lost to the eventual 1 seed that year, which again was the Miami Heat.
Just for record keeping, the Hawks were the eventual team that slotted in 8th. They lost in 5 games to the Heat. The Bulls were the team that eventually slotted in at 7th. They lost in 5 games to the Milwaukee Bucks.
And 9 and 10, I forget who 9. No, 9 was the Cavs, because the Cavs had a better record than the Hawks, but they lost to Isn't that the year that they lost to Brooklyn?
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Because that's the last full season of Katie and Kyrie.
What can I find?
I think this is that year.
Can I just say, as a quick aside, the difficulty of finding any statistics or anything, or even just like who participated in the play-in tournament in a given year is like infuriating.
If I'm remembering right, this is the first year the Cavs were kind of good. Then some guys got hurt on the team. Like this is the first year of Mobley, Garland, and Allen. The All-Star game was in Cleveland.
So Cleveland and Charlotte were the two teams that did not make it out of the play-in.
Cleveland came from they finished with the eighth worst record, or the eighth best record, lost in the 8-7 to Brooklyn, and then Brooklyn finished with the seventh.
So then was Chicago not involved?
I don't remember. Chicago was a 6 seed that year. That was the
my God. Yes, sorry.
Levine. They lost to Giannis in the first round.
You're right. I'm wrong. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was the Lonzo. They looked like gangbusters and potentially could win the conference because they had Caruso. And Lonzo,
and then Lonzo got hurt.
And then Lonzo got hurt.
Yeah, okay.
So
anyway,
so that's the play-in race that we're talking about.
Yes.
So Brooklyn gets the 7. Then the Cavs have to go play the Hawks in the battle for the 8th seed. The Hawks win on the road, and then the Cavs miss the playoffs completely. And Charlotte ends up being the 10th seed.
Yes.
And just losing in the first round. And that looked like what the Knicks could have ended up being. Just you're lucky enough to get 10, and then you just get blown out in the 9-10 game.
To be clear, the Knicks finished 6 games back of the Hornets. I know it wasn't even chicanery because they finished well. The Knicks were playing they finished the season with the number 1 defense after the All-Star break. We all remember that. And they wanted, a decent number of games. I don't know. I don't think it changes history.
So to the point, do I think they potentially play a little bit better than do they avoid that 3-17 stretch? I believe so. That's how bad I thought Kemba was. And Kemba only got back into the rotation because of a week where they had to go back to him, and politics exist. Do I think they have a better player on the floor if they had Quickley? Sure. What I do remember is how much he struggled his sophomore year. And while I think he got better as the season went along, and the on-off numbers, like the stat that I always kept going back to that year is Julius Randle's having the season from hell, and the one player that whenever he shares the court with, he has a positive net rating with is Immanuel Quickley. Like, my goodness, every time he's on the court, good things happen. And it's why it's an addendum of the Deuce McBride conversation. It's why I've tried throughout this convo of celebrating Quickley not to bring up Thibs, but this is my biggest regret is that season. I actually thought he identified a role that when you talk to people around the league and higher circles outside of the Knicks bubble, a lot of people view Quickley as a 6th man. Like, I know Toronto doesn't, but I don't know what Toronto views anything at the moment. But like, a lot of people look at Quickley. Like, I just did a pod with Sam Vecini a couple weeks ago, the best non-all-stars in the NBA. And in my research and in my cheat sheet, John, I remember I put Immanuel Quickley's name down. I remember having him so much higher on the list. And I know there are members of said hive that are like, not only is he going to get off that list one day, but he's going to get off that list multiple times. And I think he's one of the best non-all-stars at his peak. Maybe could be like a Fred VanVleet one-time all-star in the future. But that season was the year that, if I look back, it's like, man, and I'm not even going to blame Thibs because he was just being himself. If someone in the front office had just said, hey, we're pivoting and want to get a good look at the younger players. They did it with RJ and gave him a 30 usage for the last 40 games of the season.
Yep.
Why couldn't they also do it and see what they have in Immanuel Quickley?
It got to the point where it was like, Thibs is he's just fucking around with us now.
He's a 6th man, and that's the only thing I'm gonna identify.
It was the last game of the season, or like the second to last game of the season, where Quickley finally got the start. Yeah.
And not to fully psychoanalyze this, John, but like the idea of regret that you talk to a lot of psychologists about is you then have to erase everything that happened after in your regret. And the way you get past most regrets is you be thankful for the reality you have now. And I personally like Jalen Brunson. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how a lot of Knicks fans feel. I like that we ended up with Jalen Brunson instead.
Having this conversation makes me think, because look, Thibs is a crazy man, but he's not dumb. Among the questions I would ask him if, on the 12th of November when he comes on this podcast, did he not start quickly because he knew that it would be good and it would get people really excited? But did they, if you believe that they always knew that Brunson was coming, which, and Thibs just wanted to kind of keep that runway clear.
I'm not giving Thibs that benefit of the doubt. I think he was, for someone who never thinks long-term like that, I think he was very much thinking, I think the best chance for me to win the game in front of me tonight is Immanuel Quickley coming off the bench and Alec Burks starting.
You're probably right. Okay.
Yeah.
On that note,
speaking of role on the team.
Yeah. What role will they have on the current team?
Is it wrong to say it'd still be the sixth man?
I don't think that's wrong at all.
But he'd be the perfect sixth man for this team.
I don't think he starts. Does he close?
So this is where no longer being coached by Tom Thibodeau is a fascinating case study. Like, would Mike Brown see something a little different in what the numbers say with him and Brunson together, his ability to get over the fact that they're both 6'1" and shorter? Would he be able to just go with that starting five or that closing five with him instead of Josh Hart or him? Because look, you want to talk about one of Quickley's attributes when he and Josh Hart were paired together, that's that closing five that we loved of Hartenstein or Mitch. No, it was Hartenstein, Randall, Josh Hart, Brunson, and Quickley. That became a version of the death lineup for the back half of the 23 season and the beginning of the 23-24 season. And I remember just being like, man, every time that five is on the court, they're killing teams. And I would wonder how Mike Brown sees that data and whether he just pivots at a certain point and says, this is my starting five.
If you're asking me which version of the Knicks do I think has the best chance to win a championship, which is obviously impossible because two of these players were traded for each other, give me Brunson, Quickley, Bridges, Anunoby, and Hartenstein. Give me those five.
Brunson, Quickley, Bridges, Anunoby, Hartenstein. Oh, so no Cat.
No.
So
who do I want as my last five or my closing five in a big playoff game? Give me those five.
Brunson, Quickley, Bridges, Anunoby, Hartenstein. Yeah, I'd sign up for that. So no Josh Hart, no Randall, no Hartenstein. Three people that may come up in a certain list that a podcast is doing.
No RJ.
No Art. Another person who will come up. So listen, I will say, and this informs the conversation as I know we're trying to get to the convo we had with Kris, but like the Quickley versus RJ thing, I Quickley ranked higher than RJ personally, and I think I'm the only one that had Quickley ranked higher than RJ on the list. And I would argue that the only argument for RJ to be higher is the playoff argument, and I'll celebrate RJ's playoff accomplishments when we get there. But the overall impact that RJ had on the Knicks was not as positive as Quickley's overall impact, which is my lasting legacy for Immanuel Quickley. Is first of all breaking the curse and reversing the narrative that Knicks fans only get excited about young Knicks that stink, and became like an actual player warranted of the adoration and defense, and just a young player that I enjoyed watching in a Knicks uniform.
I think this question for Quickley is harder than anybody else that we're going to talk about on this list, because I think there is an argument that his lasting legacy with Knicks fans is basically the image of him smiling, dancing, swimming, whatever, jogging on the court. I think there's an argument that the lasting legacy is that of winning and impacting winning, as you just talked about. And then there is my answer. which is, I think, his lasting legacy with Knicks fans is wondering what could have been. And for as much of a hand-in-glove fit as OG Anunoby has been, look, people could go look. My reaction to that trade is a matter of public record. You could go watch the video. I was in the studio with Dexter Henry and CP. So, like, you know how I felt about it, and I made those feelings quite clear on the podcast that we did later that day.
Can I actually ask you? I've never asked you this.
What?
But like, how much was your reaction about the Hive and less about the player? Because we'll have the RJ conversation eventually, but I have talked to you about Immanuel Quickley and how much you liked Quickley in the past.
Yeah, but I was also sick of dealing with that Hive. Like
both of them, yeah.
I mean, the RJ Hive, it had obviously become personal, but like the game after post game after post game after post game for years of like not getting enough minutes. Why is he not? I mean, it didn't matter. They could have won. They won games by 30 points, and there would be a super chat about why did Quickley get more? So I was sick of all of it. That was probably close to half of it, but the majority of it was, oh my God, we got OG Anunoby, and we didn't have to give up any any of our own first round picks.
Yeah,
that was the majority of it. Because I believed, and I had believed for years, that he was the missing piece. And to bring me back to Quickley, and yet, and by the way, the all court results for Anunoby have been, I mean, I'd say pretty good.
Largely positive, yes. I think coming from, again, my small membership in this Hive, like, my process of the trade when it happened was like, fuck, they traded Quickley. And
well, that was me with DiVincenzo.
Well, so we had that conversation. Yeah. It was similar, but I was more understanding, honestly, of the Quickley trade than I was. When I say understanding, like emotionally, like I processed it quicker than the DiVincenzo trade. I understood we got Cat back for Devo, but there was always a downside that I was going to process with Karl-Anthony Towns on the defensive end. I could not see the downside with Quickley, other than the fact that he and Brunson playing together long term could have its deficiencies. It just wasn't showing up in the on-court data, which we really talked about this. There's also the playoff conversation that I think sealed his future with the Knicks. How bad he was during the 23 playoffs led to them lowering the number that they were willing to give in an extension.
You're talking about on-court downside. You didn't see an on-court downside. The reason, aside from the OG Anunoby piece, the reason Immanuel Quickley was traded was the off-court and a big glaring $175 million.
Wanted to start, wanted to get that much money. Yeah.
I don't even think it was about the start. If they look, obviously the Knicks were never going to pay him.
Yeah, I don't think any team was going to trade was going to pay a sixth man.
Yeah, exactly. But it was about, I mean, it was about the money, and that for that reason, because of the money part of it, and because of maybe a little bit of the role part of it, I think 20, 25, 27, whatever GMs, if they're Leon Rose, they make that trade. I'm not sure if, I think the number is much closer to 50-50 when it comes to the Cat trade. Again, in large part because of the money.
Yeah.
So like the money has a lot to do with both of them, but just again, to just close my point, even I, having felt the way I felt and even feeling the way I feel now about OG Anunoby, there is still a part of me that wonders, what if they had kept Quick? Because and by the way, that's in even considering the fact that for a year and a half he has been largely a non. He got hurt. Like he according to Mr. Barahini up in Toronto, like he had the equivalent of the injury that pitchers need to get Tommy John surgery for. Wow.
Which I don't know if anybody knows this. You need your elbow to take jump shots. So that's what largely affected last season. And then the year before, they were in full tank mode. So, like, I have no idea what to process. Look, it's what makes the Raptors a fun spinoff show for Knicks fans, and like we watch the Knicks and then we go check in on how RJ and Quickley did. I'm curious. I just curious of what the whole plan is in Toronto, because they keep getting guys that, while I do think they have a better pedigree than Quickley and RJ, they're also, I don't know if you want to build your team around Brandon Ingram.
It's honestly, I wrote I just had the newsletter come out about Stephon Marbury and Jamal Crawford, and my way to build them up or to defend them, so to speak, is that it wasn't anything either of them did. It's that Isaiah Thomas, by the way, used to work for the Raptors, funny enough, didn't understand the difference between building a real basketball roster and building a fantasy basketball team. It feels like the Raptors have been trying to build a fantasy basketball team for the last, whatever it is, year and a half.
But like a mid one. That's the thing. They're not building a fantasy basketball team that will finish higher than 6th.
Here's what: Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes,
Jakob Poeltl.
Put Jakob Poeltl
has
aside.
to be accounted because he's $100 million.
He's $100 million player.
Yeah.
But just consider those four. Certainly, Quickley, Barnes, and Ingram would be ranked inside of the majority of top 50 lists at some point in time over the last 3 years. For Quickley, not maybe last year or the year before, but like certainly his 6th man of the year, I think people would have had him in their top 50. RJ, maybe a little bit of a tougher sell, but he'd be somewhere in the fringes of that conversation, right? So that's what I mean. Get 4 really talented guys. There's no questioning RJ's talent, right? Get 4 really talented guys together and see what happens. That's what I mean.
Fine. I think they should look higher than like the 45 to 50 range for those players, and maybe try getting someone that's been in the top 15 or 20.
Maybe they think that's what they're looking at. We have no idea what they're seeing.
I think I think is lasting legacy as far as the what if for me. Like, I think they're wrong. I was willing to. You and I fought about this the morning of my wedding with all of my groomsmen watching us go at it about like whether or not they should extend Quickley, what the number should be that they extend Quickley for. And I remember saying, like, you were still hung up on how bad he was in the playoffs. And I was like, yep, Jalen Brunson also struggled his first playoffs in a certain role. And you were like, Quickley's not Jalen Brunson. It's like, it's not the point. And I was like, I would go like 120, like, or whatever the number would be to get him in. I would go to 125. And then you talk to some people behind the scenes, like the Knicks were never going to go to that because they never viewed him as a starter, which is why the eventual end is what the end was. And it was always going to be. And I learned to live with it because OG Anunoby's really good. And Jalen Brunson's really good too. And as we already talked about, like Dante DiVincenzo emerging helped soften the blow too. That like they had another 2 guard. Well, Deuce also, that again, it's part of the conversation that they then had a 6th man step up. But you see what I'm saying? Like, which by the way, all of these good players that then came to the Knicks and started being good on the Knicks helped continue what the Quickley thing started. That, now any hype or attention we give to a player that we think they're better than the league is recognizing is warranted. Just because it's not just like Knicks fan hysteria. Yeah. And I think that's his lasting legacy, that he was the first player of this era that warrants the hysteria. And boy, did he create it. And boy, did I enjoy parts of it.
There was nothing like Quickley Mania, and which is part of the reason why this segment was supposed to be about 20-25 minutes, and we've nearly doubled that. We are now going to end it, but don't go anywhere because we have a very special guest to continue the Immanuel Quickley conversation coming up right now. Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, he is everything. He wears many hats. He is much younger than me, and at the same time, he is an old soul. Kris Pursiainen. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Happy Thursday. It's a fun time of the off season. You know, I'm feeling good. I'm excited to talk some hoops. I think everyone thinks this time of year is like the absolute worst. And I disagree. I feel like we live in a world where everything is so like 24-hour news cycle and whatever. Like people don't get time to sit with anything. So this is like the government mandated sit with your basketball takes time. And I like it.
Two things.
Oh, wow. We both had two things. John, you first.
One, as folks are listening to this, it is not Friday. So as you could tell, we are pre-recording this segment. Is that one of the things, Andrew?
So that's my first thing. Would you like to wish people a happy Friday, Kris, since that's when they will be listening to this?
Oh, sure. Happy Friday, everyone.
There you go.
Hope you have a great weekend, too.
We both knocked out our first thing. Go ahead, John.
Second thing, I am getting to sleep at normal hours, so I don't mind this portion of the offseason at all. Was that your second thing also, Andrew?
I don't know what normal hours means when it comes to sleep.
Yeah.
Kris, we're Mets fans. Nothing about what's going on right now is good. And I am saying this before the Mets play tonight, which no matter what happens tonight, things will be bad. I'm confident in saying that.
Shout out to my good buddy and the founder of Knicks Film School, Jeffrey Ballone, for writing, a doozy of a Mets fix after their most recent loss, as I am recording this. So talking about Wednesday's loss. I don't know how they're going to lose tonight, but I'm sure it'll be in excruciating fashion. Kris, you're here to talk about I was about to say a young man. I don't even know if he's younger or older than you. He's probably about your age. Slightly older. But he is, and I told this to Andrew when we were talking about, all right, who do we have on for the Quickley episode? Talking about someone that when I think of Immanuel Quickley, I think of you. And that is not only because you were on Quickley, like from the very beginning, not only because you have been a tried and true believer in Immanuel Quickley, or had been the entire time that he's here, but because you wrote maybe up there one of my favorite guest columns for the newsletter that I've ever read. And you wrote it somewhere around a year ago, I give or take a few months. And it was kind of exploring, I'll say, the complicated relationship between Immanuel Quickley and Tom Thibodeau. And if you want to make it a three-way relationship, a little menage a trois, Immanuel Quickley, Tom Thibodeau, and the fans, and how a lot of emotions had built up over many years. So maybe we could reference that. But before we even get there, we have to talk about the other reason you're on here, which is that you ranked Immanuel Quickley lower than any other KFS faculty member.
Not the lowest, but one of the lowest. I will.
One of the lowest.
Sean had him 25, and someone else had him 25.
It was probably Jeff. Sean, Jeff, and I. When I looked back at all the ballots, we had like the same quirks, I think.
Well, okay, yeah. Jeff had him 22nd. Jeremy Goldstein had him 25.
Okay.
There's another point guard that the three of you had ranked in the 30s that we'll talk about in the future. Don't worry. But I mean, we're the ones that hate Immanuel Quickley, John. Yet you had Immanuel Quickley ranked 19th. You had him ranked higher than his current ranking. I had him ranked 14th. I had him ranked pretty high along with Benji. And meanwhile, Kris, 23rd.
I had him 19, and it wasn't enough to change my ranking, obviously. But when I really questioned it was because for the newsletter, I've been double dipping, and sometimes I've been writing about two players for one newsletter. And it worked out that I wrote about Quickley and OG Anunoby in the same newsletter because I had OG 18 and Quickley 19. And as I was writing it, I'm like, man, I think OG Anunoby has had a bigger impact than Quickley in his time that he's been here, that Anunoby's been here. But is it that much bigger than to account for all the time that Quickley was here? Because he was here for, I think, more than twice as many games as OG. So I've been talking a lot. I'm going to turn it over to you, Kris. Can you just talk about Immanuel Quickley, and then we'll get to the specifics later?
Yeah, you are all frauds. No, I'm kidding. Basically, I think the easiest way to explain why I was one of the lowest is the same reason everyone is so high on the Denver Broncos this year. I'll land the plane.
I listen.
I might be drunk. It might be going in the Hudson. It's gonna land.
I'm saying no. It's the flight analogy. You just downed your 3 little bottles of vodka, and so
I think we just told the stewardess that we're in an uncontrolled dive. Is what I think is going on here. Yes.
That's
anyway, everyone was wrong and dumb about Bo Nix, and they feel now like they owe it to him to project the Denver Broncos as this pantheon of young talent. Okay. No, they're still in the.
That was good.
The flight leveled off. Well done. Well
done. I think it is compensatory. I think it is filled with regret and not sorrow, but more so. I think there's a little bit of an Oppenheimer moment for you specifically, John, when it comes to. Did I really let my feelings make me hate a 25-year-old because a coach didn't love how he played the game of basketball? And it's like, I think a little bit, right? Like I remember one time there was a salary number that you told me Immanuel Quickley would never clear in a single season of his life. He is currently
my God, it was way lower than he's making right now, right?
Less than half, of what he makes every year right now. So, like,
Chris has that memorized.
I also told you RJ Barrett would be playing in China by the time he turned 30. Let's see how that one ages.
Hey, no, you said 12 million for Quickley, and I think a reason I held on to that so hard was because it was like, you're right. Under Tom Thibodeau, on this style of team, he's never going to be worth more than that. If your eyes were open, both of them, for the playoff series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, something in the back of your head went, see, I knew it. Right. And it's like, he couldn't get a shot off or create one for himself or anyone else. And he was a little nicked up, but so was half the team. And then, I think with Quickley, and this was my case to Andrew for why I should be on this episode, that I am both someone, and I think I illustrated this well in Bending Not Breaking, the aforementioned guest newsletter. I think I'm the person who simultaneously understands that there is peace and solace and even a little bit of whimsical joy in the what could have been, but that's not worth a ranking on the top 20. Like, he gets ranked because of what he did. I didn't rank him because of what he could have been. Is it fair to say that Immanuel Quickley was never going to feel like his wings were stretched and like he was being catered to and coddled? Like, sure, that was never going to happen. But I think it's also fair to say Tom Thibodeau was never going to get the most out of Immanuel Quickley or a basketball roster that had Immanuel Quickley on it because of the game of rush hour he would play with himself, where it's like, well, Brunson and IQ cannot play together. But when everyone's dead, Brunson and Deuce can play together because they have to. Oh, wait, that's really good. Now we're going to do this for like months, but still not Quickley because you're Satan. And then, well, okay, now everyone's healthy again. So you guys are just all coming off the bet. And it's like, I think there's something to, okay, he did really great with the opportunities he was given, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like OG Anunoby, who has helped us look at a Knicks team in the year of our Lord 2025 and say they won a playoff series and then another one after that. As basketball fans, we don't get to say that about the New York Knicks. This guy, OG Anunoby, comes in January 1st. He spent New Year's Eve on his own in a hotel room, quarantining pretty much before medical and physical exams. New Year's Eve, all by himself, shows up the next day to work. Minnesota Timberwolves first game. He's running, he's dunking, he's making open corner threes, he's defending. Thibs is like, just rock. Like he couldn't believe what he was seeing, right? And that's beautiful. And there's beauty in that. But there's also beauty in this kid, Immanuel Quickley, literally just like to skip and jump around the court. And like a drove of grown-ass men were like, he sucks because Tom said so. And it's like, okay, all right. That's all. That's my
John,
spiel.
you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll take it. First of all, with the Oppenheimer thing, I thought you were going in a different direction with the look what I have wrought, because the whole conversation about Immanuel Quickley, I'm not going to say that I was responsible for it, but I do think that Knicks Film School played a big role in boosting Quickley up and really, banging the drum for more minutes. And once upon a time, way before you wrote that newsletter, I wrote my own Immanuel Quickley newsletter after his kind of preseason
game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And you wrote,
the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I remember the line, and you put it in italics, and you were like, this kid.
Yeah.
Like, you loved him.
There was something different about it. What happened was I think, and this will get me to the second thing, which is the Thibs part of it. And this is not, I really don't want to turn this into a Thibs discussion, but what I will say, I think the best negotiator for Immanuel Quickley's current contract, the 5 years, $135 million, better than Quickley himself, better than his agent, better than God knows anyone on the Raptors who gave him all that money, was Tom Thibodeau. Because in restricting Quickley and in not giving everybody what they wanted with Quickley, there was always the air of mystery. There was always the air of, well, what could this guy be running an offense alongside, in that instance, a Scotty Barnes type.
A jumbo,
Yeah, a jumbo wing where Quickley doesn't have to do as much initiation as, say, a Jalen Brunson. It was beneficial for him that any time Quickley got on the court in the role that he was used in, he didn't only look good, he looked great. And not only did he look great individually, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, he never made you want him off the court. He never made you say Quickley's killing us out there. He never made you say Quickley is preventing us from being a better team right now. And that's where, to really bring the plane all the way back around, I was a little bit surprised with your ranking. Look, I had him 19th, you had him 23rd, so obviously I wasn't that surprised. But because he was so conducive to winning, even if he wasn't as conducive in, the louder ways of an OG Anunoby or some of the other players higher on the list, he always helped them. And he always helped them during an era when, they started winning games after having not won games for a very long time. And so that's why, to me, he was pretty, if anything, I was like, I have him too low at 19 versus I have him too high at 19. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Well, so I got apparently judged and told that I'm now trying to make up for lost time, even though I was one of the people that was saying during the Quickley experience that
I
he
singled
should be
out
getting
John.
more run.
But
I'm the one that ranked him 10 spots higher than you. And yet, for some reason, I got the stray shot there. So I have to now come to you, Kris, and say, who was more valuable to the Knicks, Immanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett? No, RJ Barrett. Because I have one ranked over the other.
To me, this comes down to what I was saying earlier about there's beauty in the could have been. RJ Barrett was consistently, or rather more consistently, a negative than a positive by raw data.
Mm-hmm. By any data. Raw, cooked, half-baked,
medium well,
refrigerated,
freezer burned data,
store-bought.
By the way, I think I had RJ higher than
you both have RJ higher than Quickley. Yes,
we both did.
I'm the one that actually parsed out that I think Immanuel Quickley is proof of concept when it comes to the Knicks turnaround. No longer are we going to be having Frank Ntilikina hives or Tony Douglas hives or Ignas Brogdakis hives or even Kevin Knox hives.
Iggy B.
To your point about this kid, John, the Knicks finally had a young player that they got in the late first round, and he turned out to be a stud. And probably could have gotten more out of him if the coach didn't only see him as a sixth man, but still got a lot out of him in that sixth man role to the point where he almost got hardware for his sixth man role. Yeah. So
should have gotten
that. To me, I think he's the third best player, potentially the most impactful player over a couple of years on the Knicks. And yet that's why I had him at 13, and it's 10 spots higher than someone had him. So I ask you, Kris, why do you have him higher than someone that we've all established was a net negative?
Right. I think there is something to the juxtaposition, not just RJ's Cleveland series in a vacuum, but compared to Immanuel's, that was loud to me. Like, hey, this is happening. It's winning time. It's winning time right now. What do we got? And RJ was like, I can get you 18 a game. I can get you 18 a game, Tom. It's going to be on 46%, but I can get you 18. And Immanuel Quickley was like, I am going to dribble and we will see what happens next.
I'm not going to make any mistakes. I'm not going to. Well, actually,
I was standing next to you at Penn 6. He was just like dribble into, what was it? Not Niang. I don't even, man, whatever.
Someone not on the Knicks.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Oh, the red maroon jersey. So for me with RJ, it's like, okay, does it feel a little bit like, how about this? Immanuel Quickley is a better song than RJ Barrett. You sit and listen to the song, you think better produced, better vocalist, better written. But RJ, the industry has determined, is the song of the summer. Every time you step into a Kohl's, Target, Whole Foods, you name it, you're hearing it. It's part of your experience to the point where you're like, oh, I hear it so much. It's around all this. It's much more ingrained in my life. It's not some underground YouTube find that I listen to and I rip on, Napster or whatever. Like, I think Quickley, there's something to like, oh, he's that band that hasn't blown up yet. Like he's that, I knew that band before it was big. And RJ is like on the, would you rather be underpaid or overrated? He's on the overrated side of the debate, but he did enough as a starter of the Knicks. The season that he was the number 2 behind Randall, actually established himself in that role to the extent that at the end of the season, we were having 1A, 1B talks. That to me was loud enough to overweigh Quickley's potential impacts. John, when you talked about, third best player, things like that, what he did additively over the years, there was one basketball season from Julius Randle that was particularly contentious and emotional and unpleasant, I think, for both Randle and Knick fans alike. I think each of them hated it just as much as the other. How many different Knicks played for the team that year? I don't know. I'll make up a number like 17 total guys that made a trade at some point, whatever, right? There was one player whose 2-man on-off with Julius Randle was positive.
This is the stat I said. Yeah, go ahead.
Every single other player, their 2-man net rating with Julius Randle was a negative. When Immanuel Quickley was on the basketball court, they won their minutes. He would set Randle up. He would tell him, he'd say, you could see it on the court. He's like, go get to the baseline right inside. You like that little midi, right? So stop standing next to the basketball waiting for me to hand it to you like you're Najee Harris. Just go get into the corner and I will find you the ball. And he did it. There was a game against the Wizards where I thought Randle was the best he had been that entire season. Because
I remember
instead of, hey, you're going to bring the ball up the court and then try and break someone down off the dribble. And if that doesn't work, you're going to get into a post up. You'll probably draw a double team. You just shoot a fadeaway over both of them. It was, hey, this kid's got you. He's out there. He's ready to go. He's ready to run. He just wants to defend and make threes. You worry about the rest. And there was something to that specifically at that point in Knicks history that made Quickley like a true fan favorite. I also think, like you said, there is something to the air of, oh, come on, coach, give him a shot, get him in. That RJ got those shots. And did he miss some of them? Yes. Did he bank them in off the glass to send home the Boston Celtics? Also, yes. And so that takes skill no matter how you want to spin it. I have RJ over him because I tried to do this ranking by weighing games played, years played, the weight of the games played, the consistency, impact, injury proneness, all of that. But top Knicks to me isn't most fun or Knicks I was most right about. It's just top Knicks. And to me, RJ earned a spot with, I think the biggest factor, if I could single it out, would be playoff performance.
No, that's it. That's the playoffs. And that's a fair argument, honestly. If you want to say that RJ from game 3 to game 5, game 3 of the Cleveland series to game 5 of the Heat series, he was their second best player next to Jalen Brunson, notwithstanding the impact that Mitchell Robinson had against the Cavs. Like, obviously, but they didn't call an offensive play for Mitch, is what I'm saying. However,
right.
I'm not going to discount what Mitch was in the Cavs series, obviously. I'm just saying, like, if you want to say the RJ playoff, those 2 rounds, I will agree with you, Chris. I'm having fun with you more than anything.
Yeah, no, but the fact that this could be an hour-long pod because it's a complicated issue. I don't think that there's a right and I don't think that there's a wrong. What I'll say, my last thought here, to kind of a 2-part thought. The thing that you said about Quickley not getting the role under Thibs that many people wanted him to get, there was a lot of that with RJ Barrett, kind of a square peg round hole thing where it's like, no, RJ, we need you to be this, and this. And then they tried that for however many years. And then they're like, you know what? Let's use RJ to get the guy who actually is this, and this. And they got OG Anunoby, and we've seen what has happened since. That's number one. And number two, and this is like something that it kind of affected me with, again, a point guard that Andrew alluded to before, who has yet to come up on our rankings, Stephon Marbury. Was Marbury always great? No. Did what he do, was it always conducive to winning? Maybe not. But he had to shoulder a load. And RJ Barrett, for as frustrating as it may have been at times to watch, and for as many times as I watched him, I'm like, man, dude, can't you just be a little bit better in these couple of areas? If you were just a little bit better in these 2-3 areas, you'd be the player we all want. For as frustrating as that was, he had to do a lot. And again, to join the 2 points together, he had to do stuff that maybe he wasn't. That's not exactly how he wanted to play. And to say nothing of the fact that him and Julius Randle mixed like oil and water. Again, contrary to your other point about Quickley and Randle. Great combination. Should we hold that against RJ? You know, I don't know. So I don't want to keep going on the RJ thing because he'll have a whole episode. But this was great. I think you did well, Chris. I didn't know how you were going to pull it off. I think you pulled it off.
My final closing statement is to go back to that bending, not breaking. My bending, not breaking piece. You know, I think a lot of the reason it's twofold. It's brief. First fold. There were a lot of things that I think fans got really frustrated about with Quickley that had nothing to do with Quickley himself. Like, it wasn't, oh, this kid is so much better than ever. It was more like the coach would be like, hey, I really care about net rating. And then fans would be like, and he'd be like, yeah, this is a stat. This is a stat that matters to me a lot. And it's just like, okay. My second point is not that there's any right or wrong or anything, but just, and this is why, you know, I'm not saying this is why Minnesota didn't work. I'm saying this is why the Knicks did what they did. They felt they had Thibs in a good situation. The front office, this, that. If he had full carte blanche, 100% roster control. Well, first, I didn't write this in the piece. IQ would have been traded for Bradley Beal. I can say that. But the other part of it that I was going to say that I did write in the piece was IQ would not have played his rookie season. They were going to deuce him. They were going to send him to Westchester, see what happens. If you remember the unceremonious exit of one Austin Rivers that season, the Knicks had an extra guard in their rotation. The Knicks, an extra depth piece? Tom Thibodeau? Yeah, it's because Rivers was supposed to be in the rotation. Quickly changed their plans with that preseason game. Why did he play in that preseason game? Because Rivers got hurt in warmups. So Quickly played, the front office was like, oh crap.
Great callback.
This guy might be better than we even thought. And we drafted him. Wes, you crazy bastard. Get him in the rotation.
And it's funny you bring up Wes because, you know, if you want to really circle all the way back around, like, Quickley was probably the biggest reason that Wes and Thibs just never or rarely saw eye to eye. Well,
when Immanuel was traded, like when Immanuel was traded away from New York to literally another country, that was a nice, like, on the court time for the team. Like everything was buzzing and good. Behind the scenes, that was an inflection point for, like, this is how this is going to go, you know, like,
Save that backstory for another guest author edition of the Knicks Film School newsletter. Okay, we've kept you too long, Kris. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on Immanuel Quickley. I'm signing us out, right, Andrew?
Yes, you are. Okay. Quickley got traded to another country where they'll give him $180 million. Goodness, Kris.
175, whatever it is.
Yeah,
okay.
Like where he was allowed to go be the starter.
It was a lot of money. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kris. And thank you, everybody, for checking out another Knicks Film School podcast. Sticking with the top 25 for 25. We'll be back with more fun and games very soon.